welcome, Blactrospective beauties. Welcome back to Blactrospective. I'm your host, Ma B. So, throughout the civic reeducation series, we've been breaking down local power, how does that work, from elections and representation to influence, accountability, and even community engagement. But tonight, we're focusing on something that people should be feeling in real time. Like, it's gonna be hard to believe that nobody's feeling this right now. The issues that are shaping voters right here in Orlando. So, across Central Florida, many residents are navigating through rising rent, housing instability, increased living costs, and questions about what is local leadership doing in response to. And while national politics often dominates like highlights or headlines, many of the decisions that affect our daily lives are being made at a county level and really, honestly, at a city level as well. We're welcoming Aisha. So tonight's conversation is about understanding those local challenges and exploring leadership, accountability, and community-centered solutions and what that looks like moving forward. Because when voters understand that issues impacting their community, they're better to they're better prepared to actually show up and evaluate the people that they're voting for and the people that are asking for their votes. Like, let's be honest. So thank you for joining us. We have Erin, we have Ish. I think you're gonna come on camera in a second. So yeah, there she is. Hey Ish.
Hey.
So just in time. So thank you for starting the hard conversation with us, and we're about to get into it. I'm gonna pass it off to Ish.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Today we will be speaking with Aaron Lewis, who is a candidate for Orange County's Commissioner District 7. We will be unpacking the challenges of shaping Orlando voters and discussing solutions aimed at helping families that are facing housing instability and financial pressure.
Sit. Welcome, Erin.
No, thank
So,
you.
how's the campaign been going?
It's going really well. Thank you both for having me on here. This is an amazing opportunity to really be able to talk to the people about the issues that matter. The campaign has been going well. It's been great being out in community, knocking on doors, talking to people, especially going into some of these communities where people are like, wow, I've never had an elected official or someone running for office come and knock on my door before. Like, this is
Isn't that
awesome.
wild?
It's absolutely wild. Every time someone tells me that, there's a part of me that's like, awesome. Like, I was the first one to like engage you.
Yeah.
This is great. But then it's like, wait a minute. How am I the first one to engage you? Like, this is
After
not
all this
okay.
time. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's been fantastic. We qualified to be on the ballot with by collecting petition signatures. So we actually had the most verified petition signatures out of any candidate for county commission across the whole county. So it really shows that like the people are excited and they're ready for this.
Well, that's the cool thing because for those of you that don't know what qualifying by petition, there's only two ways you can qualify. So you can either pay the fee or people like you trust you enough to do the job that you're intending to do that they're actually going to advocate for you to be on the ballot. So when he's saying that he's qualified by petitions, and how many petitions did you get in?
So we had 1,140 of them verified. We turned in just under 1,500.
So 1,500 people trusted you to really advocate for them when you get in as I'm probably gonna get in trouble for that because there's gonna be a couple of other District Seven. When you get into your commissioner seat, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. So then my first question for you is for viewers who may not fully understand like county government, what role does a county commissioner actually play in shaping everyday life, specifically in Orlando for Orlando residents?
Yeah, so your county commissioner is really the one who affects your daily life, the things that you are going to feel the most and the most often are going to be what falls under your county commissioner's purview. So it's going to be things like the zoning, so what your neighborhoods look like, what type of supermarkets come into your area, whether a shopping plaza stays empty for 25 years, just wasting space, or whether that land is utilized to actually give back to the community. They obviously your local taxes, your property tax rate, the assessments that you pay towards the fire department and for public safety. And then they also affect things that are not so much policy decisions that they're making to directly impact, but indirectly. And so, for instance, we can use county funds to incentivize employers that actually pay livable wages to come into Orange County so that those jobs are available for our residents. It's going to be things like whether or not you have effective public transit, whether we have a train that runs throughout the county and that people have access to when they need to have it. They can do a lot more than we might have experienced already.
Mm-hmm.
But those things that are close to home, whether it's having a stoplight at a certain intersection, or even something that may seem bigger, like whether you have access to healthcare, like those things are controlled by the county.
Wow. Even you talking about like transportation, I'm guessing this also falls in the line of gentrifications. Do you know that? Like, do you know like? Because I know when I-4 was built, and this goes for like nationally, most of the highways and stuff usually go through like black and brown neighborhoods. So
Yep.
something like transportation. When I hear that, I kind of feel like, is that a good thing? Like, I don't know. Like, is that a good thing when we upgrade our transportation? Is there a way to make sure that residents aren't impacted by the building of or by the addition to, like something that everyone can join as opposed to some people that it benefits and others that it disenfranchise furthermore?
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to run for county commissioners because it became really clear to me through the work I was doing with my nonprofit that almost everything bad that we experience here in Orange County was a policy decision. If someone or a group of people sat down, had a conversation, came to a conclusion, and we are dealing with the negative effects of that conclusion. So it really is just a matter of having the right people in the room to advocate for the residents, to ensure that the decisions that are made are in the best interest of all of the communities, and to make sure that the conclusion is in the best interest of all of the communities, in order for things like public transit to not have a detrimental effect on the community, but to have an upward mobility effect on the community. And so, like right now, we have Sunrise Movement that has been presenting the STAR plan to communities all across the county. And the county commission actually is about to do a study on it.
Oh,
And so
okay.
you look at something like the art plan, and when they were designing what the transit corridors should be in Orange County, they
Mm-hmm.
specifically looked at what the residents used the most. And so they were like, okay, we know that the bus that runs on Silver Star has one of the highest usages for that community, which means that community needs a transit line that's going to be more frequent, that's going to run at the times that people needed to run in that area. And that's how they made a decision to introduce public transit there. It
Right.
wasn't a decision of, we don't care about the land in this area, so we can put a lane through it. It was people in this area need this, and so
Mm-hmm.
we can put the infrastructure in place to solve that need.
I love that because that's coming at a different angle, and I see you're still, yeah, I really love that because that is a different approach, and I feel like that's a more holistic approach.
And that we need our government to be a lot more holistic. Obviously, like as a government entity, you're dealing with policies, administrative orders,
Mm-hmm.
not just the ones that you're creating and enforcing, but the ones that are coming down from the state and federal government. But when you're thinking about what it is that you need to implement before it reaches that stage of bureaucracy, it really should be coming from a much more humane perspective of
Mm-hmm.
what does the community need? How is this going to affect people? How will this impact communities? And then from there, you make the policy.
No, I love that.
Would we see ways that this could like for Orange County specifically, instead of it just being, I know Lynx is really big as far as our bus system, um, but maybe having like more Sunrail stops throughout the area.
So listen, I am a huge Sunreal fan, and as with that, I am also very, very angry with the current
Oh.
existence of Sunrail. I don't know who Sunrail was designed for because it was not designed for the people. It operates during the day, but not at night. Doesn't operate on weekends. It doesn't go off of like a straight line. It's great for someone who has spare time on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock and wants to hop on the train. But if you are part of the working class in Orange County and you're looking to hop on the train on a Saturday to go enjoy something, you're going to be absolutely out of luck. And that very much upsets me. And it's actually one of the big items in my platform is I want Sunrail running on nights and weekends. And it ties to so many different issues. Um, so one, expanding the hours, and two, expanding the routes. We have existing rail line that's just not being utilized. And that rail goes down on OBT and it also heads west going out to Winter Garden. And so we need to be utilizing those lines so that more people can get access to Sunrail. But giving them access at times where they can't use it isn't effective. It needs to run earlier in the morning so that the Disney employees that got to be down on I Drive at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning are still able to get there. It needs to run late at night so that our hospitality workers that are closing the restaurant and don't get off until 1 o'clock in the morning can still hop on the Sunrail and get home. And then it needs to go to the places where people actually live at. It's great that it comes to like the downtown station, and with the expansion that we'll hopefully see from the Star Plan, it'll be easy to get from the downtown station to anywhere else that you need to get to. But it'd be even better if you could just take that Sunrail much closer to your home and then use a last mile method in order to get to your house. So I want to see it expanded. I want to see it both in time and in the routes that it has. Um, Outside of people using it for work and for some of the recreation, it's also a great way for the county to deal with drinking driving problem that we have. We have this downtown corridor where they want people to come out. It's full of bars and clubs. You're going to come out, have a good time. You're going to drink, but the only way to get there is to drive or to take an Uber. And if you drive downtown and then you're drinking, you can't be responsible and leave your car and take an Uber home because they will ticket and tow your car. And so they leave people really with no option besides, well, you got your car here, you got to get it out of here. But if we had Sunrail running on nights and weekends, people can just go downtown and enjoy themselves as much as they want to, and then take the train home, hop on a bus, and get to their house without us having to worry about having drunk drivers on the road. So there's a public safety aspect to this as well as the economic mobility factor of it, so where people need to get to work.
I love all the things that you have in place because I've always said that like the Sunrail just doesn't make sense. It was like a great idea, but poorly executed. Like,
So poorly.
so it's like, yeah, I've always questioned like who uses it. My sister mentions like, oh, they have a lot of people that use it going to the hospital, but it's people that live downtown
Right.
traveling just to the hospital. And I was like, well, that's a very small portion of all of Orlando.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. And I think outside of the hospital, it really is just designed for people to get downtown during the day. If you can't afford, and it's also a solution almost to our affordability crisis that we're not handling. Because if you can't afford to live in Orlando, but you work in downtown Orlando, maybe you live out in Deltona, you live in DeBary, you can hop on the Sunrail in DeBary and ride that all the way into downtown Orlando. And that's perfect for you. You don't have to make that I-4 commute. You're saving money on gas. And if you're working in downtown, you're probably off work by 5 o'clock, so the hours work for you. But it really neglects the rest of the county.
So, but then, okay, so what's the downside to the star plan? Is there any downside to the star plan? Like, there's no compromise.
I would say the downside to the STAR plan is we have to figure out how to fund it. And then we
Okay.
have to figure out what methods of transportation we want to have here. The STAR plan is, and I was having this conversation recently with someone. So where it's a fantastic plan that has the potential to be, again, very poorly executed. And so that's where like we really need advocates and somebody who's going to closely watch how these decisions are made because we want to make sure that, we don't just say, okay, these are priority corridors that we're going to have, and we're just going to keep links exactly the same as it is. But we're going to put in a dedicated bus lane. And it's like, that's not enough. Like, it's not enough to just acknowledge that this is a transit corridor and to give a dedicated lane. Like, we need the more frequent rides. We need people to get places quicker. Like, should we even still be depending on buses as our primary public transportation? Should it be light rail? Should it be heavy rail? And those are all questions that we're going to have to answer. And that's where we'll start to see the good and bad that can come out of this plan. But the plan itself, I think, is very strong. It has a lot of very important corridors in it. And I think they really cover their bases for something for us to start with. You've got your east-west. They made sure that the colonial route, you're going from UCF all the way out to Ocoee.
Okay.
You have the Silver Star route, like I explained earlier, which connects to the OBT route, which goes right past the downtown main station and then is going to go all the way down to the Florida Mall and then connects with the OBT I Drive corridor so that people that live in Holden Heights, people that live in Oak Ridge but are working on the restaurants or the clubs that are out on I Drive are able to get out there. And then I was really happy they actually took one of my suggestions and they added in the Kirkman route. So
Oh,
now Valencia
nice.
College, the West Campus and the East Campus of Valencia College will be connected and UCF as well for the main campus and the downtown campus. So we just connected all our institutions. And then with the Cimarron route that goes from the airport all the way out past the Popka, you also connect Full Sail. So literally all of our major educational institutions are now accessible via a transit line. So that's going to make a big difference for our students that live out in the suburbs being able to get to school and choosing which school it is that they go to.
Oh, that's amazing. That is fantastic. So you've covered transportation. Now, the other thing is housing.
Mhm.
Have you ever been downtown at like 9 o'clock at night? And I'll even say we can go a little bit later, but you guys know my bedtime is like 9:30. So like we can even say 10 o'clock if we want to, at night and see the almost it's almost I don't want to say the layer because they're not on top of each other, but they're next to each other. The rows of homeless people with their single blankets,
Yeah.
um, which brings to question like housing affordability and what that looks like.
Yeah, no, that's something I've definitely seen. I've ran a nonprofit for the last 2.5 years, specifically working with the unsheltered community and people that are at risk of becoming homeless. And one of the things that we used to do actually was go and feed the individuals that were sleeping underneath I-4, just to make sure that at least once a day that they had access to a meal. Um, that is, I think, one of the biggest neglects that the county and the city of Orlando have made, outside of entire communities that they neglect. The fact that they have allowed so many residents in this area to become homeless and that they're really not doing anything besides putting a band-aid on it. Again, it's another one of the reasons why I decided that I wanted to run for office. I was tired of just putting a band-aid on a situation that could actually be fixed. And we were depending on the county, the state, the federal government to give funds to our nonprofit organizations so that they can deal with this issue as well as they can. But it's like, why are we waiting for them to give us money to deal with this problem when they could just change policies that would fix this problem? And so,
Let's. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, you're all good. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt. You go.
All right. And so, yeah, it's like if we can put policies in place that will actually prevent this from happening, or at least help people recover quicker, then that's what we should be doing. When I started my nonprofit, the mission of the nonprofit was to end chronic homelessness once and for all. We understand that situations happen and people may dip into homelessness, but from the research that I've done in possible solutions, there's no reason somebody should be sleeping on the street ever.
Correct.
There's also no reason that somebody should be outside of their home for longer than a couple of days to a week if you have the programs in place to assist them. And so, like, I want to see things like we know it is cheaper for us to provide rental assistance when someone is short on their rent than it is for us to then turn around and try and house them once they become homeless. It is cheaper to help somebody make their mortgage or be able to deal with any of the fines that they have on their home than it is for us to then try and house them after they become homeless. And
Yes.
so these are the type of programs that the county should be putting into place to prevent homelessness to begin with. If you're so many individuals lost their home because they were $100 to $300 short. Like that
Wow.
is not much money when you're looking at a county that has an $8.4 billion budget. That even if you were to help 1,000 people who were $300 short, you're looking at $30,000 that you would have spent to have prevented 1,000 people from entering homelessness. And what you would have spent on them if they did become homeless would be drastically more because you're either going to have them in a shelter that's costing you millions of dollars, or they're going to be on the street, or they're going to end up in our jails because of the criminalization of homelessness that the state has done. And all of those things cost exponentially more. So my perspective is that we need to be preventative instead of reactive, and I apply that to almost everything in my platforms. Is we have to stop reacting to contact. Like we can see these things coming. We have eyes, we have a brain,
Mm-hmm.
we are able to understand what the results of our actions will be. Yet we are still choosing to wait until that result smacks us in the face to be like, okay, let's do something about this now. And so I want to get in front of the issues that cause homelessness. And then when it comes to just ensuring that housing is more affordable, again, simple things that we could do. I proposed to one of the commissioners last year that we make a very simple change that's within the county commissioner's purview that would drastically affect what affordable housing looks like here in Orange County. And that was change the definition of affordable housing in our county charter. We are a county that has an affordable housing trust fund, and it's very, very well funded, which is great. We're lucky to have that. However, when we defined affordable housing in our charter, we said that anything from 30% of the area median income to 140% of the area median income is considered affordable housing, which in Orange County is about $30,000 to $140,000 a year.
Ooh.
That doesn't make sense because
No.
if you're making $140,000 a year, you don't need affordable income. I'm
Correct.
not saying that the economy is not hurting for you as well, but you do not need affordable housing. And so
Correct.
my proposal was to go in and change it from 30% to 80% so
Mm-hmm.
that the most you could make is $80,000 a year to still qualify for affordable housing. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because what you see right now is all of these developers come in to build affordable housing projects and they say we're going to build at 80 to 120% of the area median income. They're able to qualify for the incentives. They're able to take incentives and money out of our affordable housing trust fund, and they're building housing for people that make 80 to $120,000 a year. That's not helping the teacher that's making $57,000.
Right.
That's not helping the paramedic that's making 40,000 and change. It's not helping the CNA that's making $17 an hour. And those are the people that live here in Orange County. So we have to force them to go down. And the best way to do that is to change the requirements for how they access our funding.
Mm-hmm.
All it would take is for the county commission to vote to change 140 to 80. Only change that they have to make
Oh
there.
my
And we
God.
would immediately see a difference in the type of affordable housing projects that come into the county.
That sounds exponential. It really does. So I have to ask, and I do want to circle back to a couple of questions that I had for you, but I want to. So what? You've already proposed this, right?
Right.
What is like? What is your sentiment as far as the receival of this idea? Because a lot of people don't like change, is all I'm saying. So like, so with that, yeah, what has been the reactions? And you don't have to
I'll
name names, just like overall.
Yeah, I've gotten really good responses from them.
Good.
Like, and
Okay.
again, it's there are so many reasons that stack up as to why I decided to run for office. And like this was one that was really a slap in the face, was like going to the commissioner and sitting down and it's like, this is a great idea. This is something that we can do. And I'm like, so then why hasn't it been done as yet?
Right.
And then even to this day, it hasn't been introduced. It's not something that the staff reached out to me to get further information on. So it's like you thought it was a good idea. You thought that this is something that could actually make a difference, but you haven't made any movement on it. And that is the problem that we have with our current government, is that so many of them are complacent or tired or just preoccupied with some other interest that the people kind of get put on the back burner.
Wow. So I wanna circle
You're on
back.
mute.
Oh, oh, oh. Okay. So at least when Aaron gets in office, don't come at me, y'all. At least when he goes into office, this is gonna be one of the pillars that you really uplift that can make a dramatic change. Because even you saying from 120 to going to 8%, 80%, that's something that I could, like, even if I'm not a numbers person, even if
Mhm.
I wasn't a numbers person, to me I still know the difference between 120 and 80.
Right.
Right? So, what I wanted to circle back to was when you were talking about for your nonprofit and feeding homeless people. Did they not create a policy that was kind of like criminalizing feeding the homeless? I feel like I saw like an ordinance or something that came out maybe a few years back. So,
Yes,
and was that inclusive of nonprofits or was that just individual people?
so there was a policy on it. It's something that's not heavily enforced. I'm also the type of person that just does what
Whatever they
is
want when they
right
want to do
to do.
it.
Yeah, like if this is the right thing to do right now, then you and I can have a conversation about it later, but I'm gonna go do it. Uh,
That's good.
and that's kind of how I handle things. And I did. I had somebody from the city of Orlando reach out to me and request that we stop doing it. Their complaint was, these people, you're giving them food, but then they take the container that you gave them food in and they leave it on the side of the street. And like my response was, well, maybe you shouldn't leave them sleeping on the street and they wouldn't have to leave their food on the street. But and we continued our program for a little while longer, and then we transitioned to how we started doing our food program.
Okay.
But no, we have a couple of rules on the book when it comes to our unsheltered community that are just unhuman. And it's like, how did you vote this through? It doesn't make sense. Even though this was the state, like the no camping ban that we have, like was such a big disappointment. It's like you're telling people who have no place to go that it is illegal for you to sleep on the street as if they want to be
Right.
sleeping on the street.
Right.
Like, I want those lawmakers to go out and spend the night sleeping on the concrete, like on a hot day and on a cold day, like experience the worst that these individuals have to live every single day and tell me that they're doing this by choice. So for you to criminalize something like that is cruel. For you to tell people that they can't feed the homeless because you don't want a bunch of homeless people to start coming to that area because they know that there's food there. Like, deal with your homelessness problem, and then a bunch of people won't go to that area because they know that there's food there. Like, if
Right.
they have a house and a kitchen, they're not coming underneath I-4 to grab a plate. They're going to be making it at home. But you are
Yes.
preventing them from being able to get back on their feet, and all you're doing is punishing them for trying to live. And it's a mindset shift that we really need to have that goes back to like what we said earlier, where we have to think about how something affects a person as a human being first before we look at the policy.
No, thank you for that. I felt like I don't know about you, Ish, but I felt like a an excitement in my stomach.
Same.
Like,
I was like, yes, this is what we need to hear.
yeah, because it's like the people that we have, and I listen to a lot of politicians. Like, it's I don't want to say it's an obsession. It's almost like a study, like a social study. And sometimes when I hear the politicians talk, especially the ones that are incumbents, it sounds like they're out of touch. Like
Right.
they're drastically out of touch. Like the things that they are focused on is not real things that it's not saying that it's not real things that impact people, but it's like you said earlier in terms of the band-aid, it's like they're taking care of the symptoms but not necessarily the cause of that symptom.
Yep. And I think it's because a lot of them just aren't spending enough time in community. I was having a conversation the other day with my little brother, actually, because he's also very involved in this kind of work. And we were talking about how I'm the type of individual on the campaign where if I have three different events happening at the same time, I pick one of the events to go to. Others would tell you, no, go to all three of them and just stay for part of it for each of them. For me, that's not worth it because, yes, if I show up to all three events and show face, then people are going to say, hey, I saw him in all these places, which is great. But what did I learn? What did I get from going to that meeting? If I leave before this meeting has begun, before this meeting has ended, what am I not hearing that's important in this community? That was the purpose of me coming to this meeting. I don't show up just for a photo. It's like I'm coming to this meeting because there's something that I can learn from this that I can take to understand how to better serve my community. And so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to show up and I'm going to stay so that I can actually get that information. And that is where I think a lot of elected officials kind of get lost. Is they're so focused on it's just like, no, I need to show up in all these places so that the community knows I'm showing up. But it's like, are you really showing up though? Like you made an appearance, but did you really show up for them?
You just labeled my number one pet peeve. And I want to say one of the things that stuck out about you is that I was at the event. It was Janae Buford Johnson's launch event. And you stayed. You were probably the only other candidate outside of it being Janae's event that stayed the entire time. You asked questions. You challenged it. No, it wasn't the school. It was the school board. You asked challenging questions. You talked about the contradictions of trying to get information within the system. That was honestly when I became an Aaron fan because I was like, oh, he's asking real questions. He's not like tiptoeing around the issues. He's really asking questions that address it. And every other event that I've been to, that me and you were ever at, you always stayed to the whole thing. There has been other events where there are candidates that are more well known, that are popular, that they've come, they say their spiel, and before the community can even tell them what is wrong, they are out. And I find that offensive. I find
Agreed.
that, yeah, go ahead, Aisha.
I was just going to say, I feel like the community definitely notices that too. Like, they're not feeling supported just because you made an appearance, as you put it. Like, they want to see that this person actually cares about our community enough to stick around and hear what our community has to say.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's the only reason to run for this position if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. So then I have to ask you this. In terms of affordable housing that often like involve like developers and budgets and competing priorities because you know you're not going to be the only commissioner that's sitting in that room. I've seen y'all. How do you balance like economic development with also like protecting like what is your plan to balance economic development with protecting like longtime residents from being like pushed out or left behind or like in everything that you do because I want to go back to the other thing I was going to mention was the homelessness center. There's a homeless center. I think it's something that's advocated by some of the incumbents that are in there. Again, a band-aid to a solution because the homeless center would like create some jobs, right? It would create some jobs and it would house some homeless people, but knowing people that have been in the homeless system, a lot of those places you have to go there early in the morning, you have to wait in a long line to potentially get a bed. It's not enough time for you to even stay there, so like you spend all day in line, so then by the time you get ready to have to go get a job, you really can't because you have enough time to get relaxed, maybe shower, do the things, maybe going to those jobs too late because everything is now electronic. So maybe you can do it from the where you're at, but then tomorrow's not promised today in terms of a bed. So you have to pack. You can't even get comfortable. You have to pack your stuff up. And then there's also people that I've known that's experienced violence in homeless shelters. So like when we're thinking about like not even final solutions, but better solutions, like how do you foresee like balancing all that? Because it's not hard to keep humanity in place. I mean, it's not easy to keep humanity in place because I feel like if it was, then more people would be doing it. But it almost seems like whatever they're doing is like it's something that makes them look good on paper, and even maybe to some people it's something that benefits the few as opposed to the many. Let me
Mhm.
put it that way. I think that's the best way I'm trying to said. So how do you foresee yourself keeping centered? I'm sure through nonprofit work you've already
Yeah.
dealt with that.
Um, there's one word that I use to answer that question anytime someone asks me it, and it's intentionality. I really think that's all that it comes down to is being very intentional in everything that you do. We can have homeless shelters, affordable housing, and a very booming economy at the exact same time as long as we are intentional in how we design the systems. I'm going to answer the questions as two questions, the homeless on one side and the affordable housing and development on the other. So with affordable housing and economic development, I believe that those things go hand in hand. I don't think that they counter each other whatsoever.
Okay.
I think that some of the affordable housing projects that have been done throughout history counter economic development, but that's also why we should, and I say should because not everyone does, that's why we should know that they don't work and that we shouldn't be repeating those types of projects. But what does work is transit-oriented development being affordable so that you have individuals that are able to live close to transportation, also live close to shops, to grocery stores, everything that they need. And because the housing is affordable, they're spending more money in those businesses. Because they live near transit, they don't have to have a vehicle or car insurance, and so they have even more money to go out and spend in the economy. And so we know that affordable development near transit areas can be beneficial for the economy. Also, as we try to create more affordable housing, one of the solutions to do that is through urban infill. In our urban areas, we need to start filling the gaps with the missing middle, having townhomes, having quadplexes, just different options for different types of families and individuals to choose from based on what they're looking for their lifestyle and their budget. And the more dense you make an area, you make sure that it's mixed development, so it's both residential and commercial. So now you have individuals that are able to have affordable housing that works for them, spending money in those businesses, if not owning those businesses as well. And so I really do think that it goes hand in hand as long as when you design it, you're designing it with the intention of this housing needs to be affordable to the community, but we also want to make sure that it's set up in a way where they can easily participate in the economy. And when you combine those things together, that's what allows it to succeed. For the established neighborhoods, you don't want to change the character of those neighborhoods, but you want to make sure that they are designed, they are upgraded in a way that allows them to benefit from the new infrastructure that's being built or from infrastructure that's just missing from them that they could use to enhance those communities. And those come from conversations that you have with them. A lot of these neighborhoods don't want you putting any sort of business inside of their neighborhood. They want to be only residential, but they would appreciate if when they come out of the neighborhood on the main street, if there were actually like a grocery store right there and a couple of other things that they can grab. And so, you make sure that you put those things into those communities. We have to listen better. And when it comes to homelessness, I would say if you're talking about the project I believe you're at, it's the Goldenrod Shelter. Where the Goldenrod shelter differs from a lot of other shelters is that they are actually doing complete wraparound services. And so one of the things that you highlighted, I'm glad that you did because it's a huge issue with our homeless shelters, is usually an individual has to get there either at 8 a.m. to get a bed, or they have to show up by like 2 o'clock the latest to get in line to be able to get a bed at 5 o'clock, which means you can't work. Because if you have to be there by 2 o'clock, there's a good chance you don't have a job where that's going to work for you. And that's not fair. And like you said, it's also not guaranteed that they're going to have that bed the next day either. They have to do the exact same thing. The Goldenrod Shelter is going to be a program. And so when they bring individuals into the program, they're there for, I believe it's 90 days. And
Okay.
it's complete wraparound service to where they're dealing with any issues that they have going on to stabilize them and then move them into permanent housing. And so that's actually a well-designed program from what I've seen to actually deal with the causes
Okay.
of homelessness from outside of the system. Orange County still needs to do their part, but from outside of the system, it's a great way of dealing with a lot of those causes. And something that's missing a lot is the wraparound services. It's providing a bed is only one part of the puzzle. That's
Yes.
it. And so making sure that you're connecting them with mental health if they need it, substance abuse care if they need it, education if they need it, workforce training, and everything that you need to be able to not just get moved into permanent housing, but to be able to keep that permanent housing. that's going to be part of that program there. And so that's actually a concept that we need to see replicated a little bit because what we have been used to, like all the shelters in the Paramore community, is exactly what you described, where you're showing up hoping that you can get a bed, don't know if you're going to have the next day. I believe the Salvation Army only allows you to stay for a certain amount of days in a month or in a 3 month period. And it's like, how do you, I don't understand how someone can humanely tell somebody that they know has no place to sleep, like, all right, like I can give you a bed for 7 days and that's it. Then you got to go somewhere else. What do you mean go somewhere else? Like there is nowhere.
Nowhere
You
else.
live here. Like you
Yes.
know that there's nowhere else here. And so this is kind of addressing that. And I would say what I'm looking at doing is another thing that I had proposed to another county commissioner, which is the idea of creating micro shelters across the county because Paramore doesn't want any more shelters in their area, understandably.
Right.
But neither does all of District 6. They're saying that we just don't want any more shelters in this district because we have all of them until the goldenrod is created. And so that is a very fair assessment. So when I sat down with the commissioner, the idea is every year HUD requires that the continuum of cares throughout the country, which manage homelessness, conduct a point in time count, which is an understanding of how many people on a given night are experiencing homelessness, both in shelter and outside of shelter. And so for the last 2 years, I've actually been the chair of the PIC count for Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County. And so it's allowed me to see that data and kind of understand what that picture looks like here. All the county has to do is pull that data that says, 1,700 individuals were unsheltered last year or on this date and say, all right, we need 1,700 shelter beds, and then we can make sure that nobody is unsheltered. And so you divide that amongst your districts so that each district has a proportional amount of shelter beds, and then you're able to refer individuals to these shelters and get them off the street. It is still a band-aid to an extent, but it's fixing the problem of having individuals on the street when you can be arrested for that. And
Yes.
not just arrested for it, but also the health conditions that it causes. The amount of congestive heart failure that I have seen on these streets, which I don't know if you've ever seen someone who's not managing their CHF, but their legs, their ankles become about this big, and it looks like it's decaying. And that is so depressing
Oh.
to see, not just once while I'm driving, but to see multiple times on the same drive, individuals that are standing on the side of the street, sitting at a bus stop, or just walking towards a shelter with these conditions. And it's like, we're just leaving you out here. Like, we're not giving you any care whatsoever. These people are going to die on the street, and we're just okay with that. That can't be okay. And so the solution is to evenly disperse out the shelter beds and make sure that we have enough beds available for every person who's unsheltered. Now, by having the county be responsible for that, it then kind of motivates them a little bit to solve the problem. Because it's like, all right, do you want to keep paying to fund all of these shelter beds or do you want to empty them? And
Right.
that should be the next mission. Let's empty all of these shelter beds so that we don't have this cost to bear anymore. And we solve the problem at the exact same time by making sure that each of those wraparound shelters, or sorry, each of those low barrier shelters have wraparound services. And then also, like I mentioned, low barrier, making sure the shelters are low barrier because we have shelters here to where like there are couples that have been together for 10 years and never got married. And in certain shelters, they wouldn't be able to be together. You have same-sex couples that may have issues in certain areas. When you have a gender that isn't straight male or female, you may have issues just because it's like, well, where do we put this person at? And so we have to make sure that we are taking every person into consideration as we're addressing homelessness. A lot of these individuals that have been experiencing homelessness, both short term, but especially long term, their animals are more important to them than a bed. And so I know so many individuals that sleep out in the woods because they will not give up their dog. That dog is all that they have left. And to expect somebody to give up the last thing that they have left is unreasonable. They lost everything. And all they have left is that pet that has been by their sides. And I can empathize with that as someone who went through a lot in my 20s. And like, I had a dog with me. And that, like, when my dog passed away, that hit me because we had just gone through so much together. Like, no matter how low things got for me, like, I dealt with substance abuse, I dealt with being homeless myself, and my dog was always right there with me. And it's like, to give that up is really, really hard to ask of someone. And to some people, it's like, well, I mean, like, it's that or you sleep outside. Like, give up the dog.
Yeah.
But when you've been through the ringer, that stability of knowing that something you care about, something that you know also loves you, that brings you joy, is still there. And so we need to make sure that our shelters are designed to allow pets, to allow people to have, the little bit of belongings that they may have, and to accommodate different types of family styles and relationships.
Mm-mm. I didn't know if she was going because I like
Good.
I was like, what I would say to that is you touched on a lot of key points and yes, like I can say I always say that I'm a my animals person. Like I mean I like all animals, but I like my animals.
Yep.
And you're very much so right. Like our animals for us is very therapeutic. That they're usually, especially if they're a dog. The cats, I don't know all about that. Like I do, which I like. I like their like their like don't touch me kind of attitude
Uh-huh.
too. Like they have their own alert to them. But as a dog person, like it makes the difference between a good day and a bad day. It genuinely
Yes.
does. And sometimes that's like the only family member is sometimes you give up your family member and that really is your only family member that you have. So yeah, you touched on a lot of key points in terms of what people like when it seems so simple. It's like, oh, either have shelter or have your animal. No, it's not as easy as that, especially but if you're not someone that has a connection with animals, then it seems that easy, but it's not.
Correct. I agree.
And for a while, I didn't think I was capable of being that person. And I became that person. I had zero interest in getting a dog. And it really is like that. And you can't just give that away. You can't.
No, no, you can't. And I'm right there with Molina. I'm not a huge dog person whatsoever, but when it's your dog, it's very,
Oh
very
yeah,
different.
it's
And I
very
think that
different.
just goes to show that like you truly can love an animal because that's the only way that you can have that difference there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have another question. With the younger generation growing up right now, and as they're entering into adulthood, I know quite a few that are like approaching their senior year or just graduated from their senior year. How do you think they're going to engage with politics, knowing that we are in a time of like rising rent, increased debt, housing uncertainty while they're still living at home with family, much less when it's time for them to move out on their own?
I think they're going to be super engaged. They already are. And sadly, it's because they don't have a choice for the reasons like you listed. But you look at an organization like the Sunrise Movement, which has grown so quickly across this entire country. And it's like that is a youth-led movement. It's very, very young. I think the head of our chapter here in Orlando is, I want to say 22. Like these are young
Wow.
individuals that are seeing, you know, like I've said before, they're seeing that the American dream that we were promised has been a lie, and they're
Mhm.
upset about that.
Mhm.
But rather than just be mad, they seem to be taking the steps to actually fix and change that. And so they are a very opinionated generation and they are stepping out even if they don't know how to say what they need to say, how to advocate for what they need to advocate. They're saying something and they're making sure their voice is heard. And so, that's why one of the things I'll be doing when I'm elected is to create like a youth advisory council in the district to start getting the youth much more involved in policy decisions and just the understanding of how it affects them so that from the time that they get started off in their adult life, they can see where their role in government is and how they can hold their officials accountable. And how they can ensure that the things that matter to them are actually accomplished. So, yeah, no, I think that we're moving in a really good direction. I think we've seen with every generation at a younger and younger age, we're getting involved. And it's been for bad reasons because the generations before us have always screwed us a little bit. And so we're like, wait, I got to do something here. Um, but hopefully, what this is going to do is cause us to be in a society where everybody is finally involved in politics instead of just the older, seasoned individuals. And so everyone's perspective, everyone's opinion, everyone's how decisions affect everyone is being taken into consideration in how we make decisions in the future.
Thank you. I wanted to add to that. Do you feel that this is something that should be reflected upon more within our education system?
Like local government?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Uh, that and it's actually frustrating as I think back like on my childhood. It's like there is so much that I learned about how government operates, and none of it was about how my city or county government operated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big issue because, like I said at the beginning of this, it's what affects you the most on a day-to-day basis is the decisions made on the local level. And I think that if they did implement teaching these things to individuals, that our local elected officials would be held at a higher accountability rate, and that would then trigger things to actually start working better. You know, politicians are able to get away with not doing things or with making bad decisions because people usually don't know. And so the more we know, the harder it is for them to not do the right thing. So I would like to see, and it's something that I would work with our school board on as well. There's a lot of things I want to do with our school system, even though it's a little bit outside of the jurisdiction of the county. There's a lot of things I want to do to work with our school system to improve things. And one of those things would be, yes, like how do we get our youth more involved with local government and not just the city and county government, but the state government as well, because we see how influential the state has been on local issues. And the better they can understand these issues, the better they can advocate for these issues and also understand how it's going to affect them as they graduate and enter adult life.
Yeah, I feel like state government was even minimal
Yeah.
throughout our high school. Like they teach you the branches of government, what the people in those positions hold, and really that's the extent of it. But then you turn 18 and they want you to go vote.
Right. Right.
No,
Without
totally.
educating you on how to do so.
Yeah.
Isha, you're driving home the other point. Like there was an event that I went to this weekend, and essentially they were saying, we don't know what the issue is. Like we don't know what the issue is, but we need everybody to vote. Like we need to think of a strategy, but we need everybody to vote. And it's like, well, the strategy starts with education. Like if they were educated, then they would feel empowered, and they would feel like it's a responsibility, not like an obligation, but like they would really care about it. But you have to start at the root of it. And I know that I see that we only have like 5 minutes. We are going to go a little bit over. So thank you guys for sticking with me. I'm going to go a little bit over simply because I didn't realize the chat was popping like this. Aaron, you got a lot of questions in the chat, by the
Oh,
way,
all
that
right.
we're going to, I didn't realize it was popping like this. So, but yes, it's, again, it feels like in this moment, and I know that where we're at in this country is almost it's devastating with the Voting Right Acts being pulled back, with the not really understanding the homestead tax, not really understanding the risk of the voucher programs, um, like all of those things. And I wish we could talk about these things. Maybe we have to do another segmentation where we do a panel where we can bring everybody in so we can have a healthy dialogue about all these things and really drive it home. But I'm really trying to I'm really trying to figure out, like, how do you guys want us to vote for you or just trust you when me as a millennial has seen the promises that you promised my dad, and like in his generation, and then seeing like, and I'm gonna be honest, like come at me if y'all want to. Like, I always felt like the Democratic Party, and I'm not saying that I'm for Republican because I'm definitely not. They've never been for black people. I'm gonna be honest. But I've always felt like the Democratic was good for everybody but black people. Like, and we as a culture is just so great. Like we always want to like make sure that everybody else is like protected and everything else. But like things like education is important to me. Like as a parent, things like education, things like housing. As a parent that's trying to have young adolescents that's coming into this next phase in their lives, that's important to me. Things like our elected officials being visible and in their visibility being held accountable and also being empathetic, because I've been to some of those commissioner meetings, and it's not what I would have expected. I would have expected a lot more. Like their stone cold faces. I believe there was my daughter came with me one day and she was recording, and I literally have a video where one of the members on the thing is like staring her down because she's recording for me, and it's little things like that, like almost feeling unwelcome when we're putting you guys in. We voted for you,
Right.
so I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but I just wanted to say that before going into these questions. Um, I don't even think I asked you a question, right?
Nope.
Okay, good. Because like I'm trying to get y'all's questions in here. So divinely guided one said, how do we elect people that will remain on the side of the community that elected them? There has been so much mistrust between that what is said and what is done.
No, I agree with that. I think one of the great ways to do that is to look at who is funding their campaigns. Like I can tell you for myself, I'm not taking any corporate PAC money, any money from large developers. My donations are small dollar donations, and it's the reason why there are certain individuals that won't endorse me. There are certain organizations that won't endorse me because I haven't raised 50K plus.
Mm-hmm.
But my priority isn't raising $50,000 to run a campaign. My priority is talking to every resident in this district and understanding what the issues are that matter to them and then fighting for those. And so you will have some candidates that are getting money from, say, like I can use this as an example, actually. I got an email from the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association asking me to complete their endorsement questionnaire. I ignored it. We got another email a couple days ago with a reminder to complete it. I ignored it again. I have no interest in going after an endorsement from the Central Florida Hotel Lodging Association because I don't want to be held accountable by the Central Florida Hotel Lobbying Association. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going after TDT dollars. I'm trying to make sure that that tourism money is actually going to be beneficial to residents in Orange County. So I'm not going to waste my time filling out your questionnaire. And I definitely am not going to seek your endorsement because then I have to answer to you. I would love endorsements from random community members because yes, that's who I'm going to answer to is the community members. And so the key is you have to look at who's endorsed these candidates and who's funded these candidates because that's who they're answering to. And that's when you find someone who said one thing on the campaign trail, but then when it comes time for a vote, they vote very differently and you're confused. You can usually clarify your confusion in a campaign finance record.
Aaron, like, not gonna lie, I just recently researched that group, and baby, I was very surprised in terms of seeing. Let me take that back. I was surprised at some of them, but not all of them. So most of them that I saw that was endorsed, I was like, yeah, that tracks. That, you know what I mean? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
that tracks. There were some surprising ones, um, but you guys got to do your own research. If y'all want to know, we'll have another dialogue about it. But y'all really got to do your research, and I would recommend going on your state government dot gov, like the bills, um, and doing the bill tracker, looking up your representative and seeing the things that they advocate for. And not only the things they advocate for, also look at the things that they're not sponsoring or co-sponsoring, but they are voting yes. And you have to go into a PDF to do that. It's a little bit of homework, but it's very telling. Just so you know, you heard it from Ma B. Then the next question is, um, can you give your opinion and
Hey,
insight?
Mal, real quick, can you just check on your mic? In the chat, they're saying they can't hear you
They
well.
can't hear me? Oh my gosh. Like I'm like, my mic has always been an issue. Let me see if I can try to connect it to some a different mic.
They said it was good, but at some point it started going out.
Okay.
Like you sounded distant.
Let me see. Does this help y'all? Does having this help? Y'all let me know. Let me see. I see some responses coming in. All right. Well, let me ask this question because they can at least hear. Well, maybe I don't know. I was like, maybe you should ask the question if they can't hear me. I'm going to try to ask this question because they say, can you give your opinion and insight on the Homestead Act exemption that DeSantis and the Republicans are supporting since voters will be voting on it in November?
Yes. So the state wanted to solve a problem, which was that a lot of homeowners were being cost burdened. The solution to that problem would have been to fix property insurance because that is a huge cost burden to homeowners as well as just difficult to get and to maintain. And so that's what they should have attacked. But again, tracked campaign finance, there's probably a reason they're not. They went after the property taxes instead, which feels like it's going to be a cost saving for homeowners. But what's going to happen is you're talking about Orange County losing millions of dollars. And so those are dollars that are going to have to be replaced somehow. And the way that they're going to get replaced will be through either an increase in sales tax or by having a dedicated fee that goes towards different things like fire, dedicated to public safety, and just starting to create new fees that are going to be dedicated to fulfilling whatever need has to be done, but there's no longer funding for because of those property taxes. And so I think that it's a very poorly thought out plan. I think a lot of experts have also said that is not a well thought out plan. But at the end of the day, the voters of Florida will make their decision on if that's the approach that they want to take. I think it's going to be most dangerous for our municipalities that depend on property taxes. I think that we will see some municipalities across the state end up going, what's the word they use? There's a specific word for when a municipality goes bankrupt, essentially, and they will no longer exist as a municipality. And I think that there's a part of the state that's kind of hoping for that, that they can come in and take over different areas and bring them under their purview. If you can't afford to take care of yourself, we'll take care of you, but you have to follow our rules now. And so
Mm.
people need to be very conscious of that when they vote. Here in Orange County, if we could reroute all of the TDT dollars, that might make up for the difference in what we'd be losing in property taxes. But again, we need to be able to utilize those dollars for public transit and for affordable housing. And so, as we talk about our need for more affordable housing, as we talk about our need for public transit to be improved, how are we going to take hundreds of millions of dollars out of our budget before we even get started on trying to spend money for that? So it's going to be very detrimental to every county and every city in the state of Florida. And while homeowners may feel some temporary relief, it will be replaced. And renters are actually going to be the one to get a lot of the burden because they're now going to have additional fees that they have to pay to make up for the fact that there are no property taxes.
Do you feel like that this may allude to maybe increase in taxes, which I'll be okay with that if y'all increase the minimum wage? Right? Is that something that's on the table, increasing state taxes?
State
Or
taxes?
like just sales tax? Is it state taxes or
Yeah,
sales
sales
taxes?
tax.
Sales
I
taxes.
would
I meant sales taxes, yeah.
I would say it's almost a guarantee that if this goes through, sales taxes are going up because we have to replace that revenue. The state's talking about how, counties are wasting funds and that we have all of this excess. Certain funds have gone to programs that they didn't need to go to. I will agree with that. There are certain things that we could have gone without, but those dollars should have been reallocated to other places, not just not used. We need every dollar that is in our budget. It just may not be assigned to the correct spot. And that's why I know one of the big things that I'm actually in the process of doing, we have a very big budget, is going through to understand like, okay, where can we start reallocating money so that the money that we're collecting is actually going towards things that will really benefit residents right now. Obviously, we always need to think long term, but we need immediate relief for things, and there are things that we can do. So when they're talking about the funds that we have in the county that are being misused, don't think that those are funds that should be coming back to the residents. Those are funds that should be going to other programs that are underfunded, not funded at all, or just not where they should be at.
No, thank you for that. I'm going to try to go through all these questions. So Don Hammonds asked, does the candidate know how much his district currently spends on homelessness and how he'd change that?
That is a fantastic question. I don't have the answer to that, how much this district specifically spends on homelessness, especially with it being a new district. It's hard to get district-wide data. But what I would be looking for when I go in is to understand what homelessness looks like within all of District 7 and how much it would cost for us to resolve that within District 7. And then making sure that we are creating programs that have the highest ROI. At the end of the day, it's like if we're spending money on something, we want to see a return on that investment. And you have a return on investment even on human lives matters. And so that return on investment is, did this person get housed? Did this person keep their housing? Did this person get a job that pays them a livable wage? And as long as we're seeing that that's where the money is being spent at, that's what I would support.
Oh, excellent. And if you do find out, you can always just send the message to Blactrospective and we'll post it. But thank you,
Perfect.
Don Hammonds, for that. I have Ma Pyru 7. Do you believe housing is a human right and support decommodifying housing? So we already know he knows that he believes that housing is a human right. So do you support decommodifying housing?
I want to see a blended approach. Because housing is a human right. But to say that housing is a human right means that there has to be an aspect of it that is decommodified because this is a necessity. I think that we can continue to have luxury developers that want to build houses in Winter Park and Windermere and these areas because there are going to be people that always want to buy those types of houses. And that is, more power to you. But there also needs to be a minimum standard of what every human being is entitled to and how it can be created in a manner that is not part of this capitalistic system. You shouldn't be trying to make money off of someone trying to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the line needs to be drawn at. You should, first-time home buyer programs is kind of like a great way. Like using our land banking program, using the loan programs that we have for our residents, not just for corporations. We allow these companies to come in and get these low interest loans so that they can build. Why can't we allow our residents to get low interest loans to build and to
Right.
give them land so that they're saving money on that land so that you're really just paying a very basic price level to be able to enjoy your life. But if you want to come and drop $10 million on a 16-bedroom home out in Windermere, like more power to you. Go do that because the property taxes will help if we still have them.
Thank you for that, Aaron. So Don Hammonds wants to know how much has the candidate had to pay out of pocket to run for office? If you don't want to give a dollar amount, you can give a percentage.
Out of pocket, I would say probably about 25-30% of my campaign I've paid out of pocket. Um, I'd say that's about accurate. It could be a little bit higher than that. But I mean, I haven't done anything high dollar yet, so I guess it's easy to keep that low.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to get lit to go out, like sometimes I put my money into my campaign account so that I can make that purchase for the lit. There's been times where I've wanted to like send out mass text messages and just didn't have enough in the campaign account, so I moved my money over so that I can send out those text messages to get information out to the district. It really just depends on what the donations are like at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like campaigns are really expensive to run, and I'm doing my best to run it for as affordable as possible to make sure that we can get through. I'm a working class person who lives paycheck to paycheck, and like this campaign has put me in debt 100%. But I also think that this is an important thing for me to do so that we can get some healing in our community and finally have work being done that will benefit all of us.
I love that a working class person is running. Like, I feel like some of the candidates that I met, you definitely know they're working class, but it also shows in the way that the policies that they advocate for because it's their lived experience.
Right.
Um, the next question, let me see. What advice might you have for other Africans considering running for local office?
Get as involved as you can with the community that you want to run for office for. Make sure that people know your name, know your face, know what you stand for before you make that decision to do it. But then, most importantly, what helps me, because I've been telling people like campaigns are really hard, and they told me before I ran, they're like, you don't understand like how hard this is going to be, and I was like, no, like I get it. Nope, you don't understand how hard this is going to be. But your North Star is really what keeps you. So you have to have your reason for why you are running for office. And it has to be a reason that you can always reflect back to, and it's gonna snap you back into reality to keep going and keep grinding. Because it's really easy to get bullied out of the space, and it's also just really easy to feel defeated and like there's no point to this. The system is designed against me. Like, I say often that I decided to run to prove that you don't have to be rich and well connected and perfect to run for office. And I have days where like I'll talk to my husband and it's like, yo, like maybe you do have to be rich and well connected to run for office. But then I just remind myself that it's like, no, nope, we're not letting that be the final answer. Like I'm going to push all the way through because if I give up, that's going to cause somebody else to never take a chance. And so I have to keep going to prove that yes, you can do this without being bought. Yes, you can do this and truly care for the community and stand by your values and your principles. So it's really important to be grounded in yourself and then grounded in the community and then run.
Beautifully put. I can see that you have so much passion in what it is you're doing.
I do. I've always just being the way that I was raised is that community is everything. And like if you can help someone, help them. There's
Yes.
unless you can't, there's no reason not to help somebody. And so like just I think over the course of years and things that I've done, it naturally led to this point. And so I'm really passionate about this because of the frustration that I have. When I first announced I was running for office, the first thing I said to I'm frustrated and I am tired of being frustrated. And I know that so many other people are frustrated too. And so it's like the only way to fix that frustration is to get up and do something and actually make the difference. And so like I'm passionate about this because I want to see homelessness end. I myself, I want to be a homeowner in Orlando. Like I would love to be able
Yes.
to buy a home in my hometown. And I just can't afford that right now because of how high the cost of living has got here, with the average house being $500,000. Like, how do you do that when you're living on a fixed income? And I want to have kids. And I know that there are so many other people out there that also like dream of having a family. But then, you look at your bank account and you open your refrigerator and you're like, I'm barely feeding myself. How am I going to feed someone else? So it's like, will I never get to become a parent? Like, is that something that's just not on the table for me? And it not being a parent shouldn't be taken off the table for you just because the place that you live refuses to allow the area to be affordable. It refuses to allow its residents to have a life where they can thrive instead of just survive. You should be able to personally make the decision that you don't want to have kids. And so it's for all of those reasons that yeah, I'm really passionate about this and I want to see this city, this county, this region become what it can be and for it to just stop sitting on this potential. Orange County makes me feel like a parent that has like a son that they know is a straight A student and he keeps coming home with C's. And it's like, I know you can do better than this. Like,
Yes.
what are you doing? And then he comes home with an F and you're like, what? That's how I feel about Orange County all the
So valid. So valid.
time.
I'm going to ask this last question from the audience. Don Hammonds, Thank you for your activity. Has the candidate reached out to the African People's Socialist Party for endorsement? Have you reached out to them or anybody for endorsements?
I haven't reached out to the African People's
It's a mouthful. Yeah, Socialist Party.
Socialist Party. Yes. No, I have not reached out as yet. Thank you for bringing that up. I will make sure that I do reach out. I know I do a lot of work with 5051 movement, who has endorsed me, and the Democratic Socialist Party is a part of that. I also know they have PSL that's a part of them, and DSA that's a part of them. So I have done work with the socialist organizations. We're seeing all the great work that's coming out of New York City with the Democratic Socialist mayor. And so I definitely would be open to having that conversation with the group.
Excellent. All right, Ish, you want to close this out in terms of the last question from us?
All right. What personal experiences have pushed you towards a future in public service, and what keeps you motivated to be engaged with the community and the conversations with your community?
I mean, I think I kind of guess I just jumped the gun on that one. But just everything in my life has, from growing up with a mom who was undocumented and seeing how difficult that system was. A lot of times I tell a story when it comes to public transit of when my mom was still undocumented, didn't have a driver's license, so we depended on the bus. And I remember standing on Colonial and Alafaya in the sun for like 2 hours waiting for this bus to show up that was late and then just never came. And it's like that was horrible in the middle of summer. There was no bus shelter whatsoever. I don't even think there was a bench at that bus stop, if I remember correctly. So you're literally just standing there, and it's like no one should have to go through that. My mom was a single mom raising three kids, and she was a CNA when I was a kid. So, making minimum wage and trying to take care of us, watching how much she struggled, and it's what's connected my passion for things like how I want to get Boys and Girls Club to be in every single school in Orange County, because I was fortunate enough that my middle school had a Boys and Girls Club. And so that's the only time I ever got to experience summer camp, was because they offered the program for free. There was no way my mom could afford to send me to summer camp. And so I was really grateful for that. And then during the school year, having that program there, it allowed me to access tutoring. Like, right now, if you want to access tutoring, hope you're a rich white kid. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like with the pricings that they charge at some of these centers, a lot of these working class families cannot afford it, but they have programs where it can be done for free. All the way up to, joining the army really instilled service in me. It also showed me how I could go above and beyond in achieving things. I was an E4 specialist working as an E6 staff sergeant running battalion operations my last year that I was in the army. And so, like, being in a role where I was awarded for being a sergeant, and I was not even a sergeant, I was not a non-commissioned officer, but I was able to perform above my rank. And so, bringing the life experiences that I had, the service-driven nature that I really had drilled into me while I was in the army, and then coming out and navigating life as a disabled veteran, dealing with my mental health. I have bipolar disorder, and so having to function as a normal human being while dealing with all of these things, and realizing I'm not the only person who has to do that, but I am capable of achieving things. And so I want to make sure that I put myself into a position where I can help those people. And so that's really what led me to decide that I wanted to do this. And it's what keeps me invigorated, is knowing that the same struggles that I deal with every day, there are thousands of other people in this county that are also dealing with it, if not all of them, with one of them. And so I need to get up and fight every day, not just for myself, but for them.
No, I love that. Thank you for that.
You.
Thank you so
Thank you
much for
guys.
that. Because even I know you touched on it, but I like the detail that you gave this time around. So thank you for following up with that question, Eve. The
Of
one
course.
thing, so Aaron, where can people find you? Where can people support you? What events are you going to be at? Tell people what's up.
Yeah. So first off, you can check out my website, which is voteaaronlewis.com. And that's Aaron for Aaron, Aaronlewis. And on my website, you'll be able to see my platform, learn a little bit more about me. It also is going to have options on there if you'd like to donate to this campaign. Because we do want to be able to get in front of a lot more people. I would love to be able to get some digital ads up to make sure that we're really reaching out to everyone who may not be plugged into these spaces. But also have opportunities for you to come out and get involved with the campaign. This Saturday we have a bunch of events that are going on. We're going to be knocking doors in College Park on Saturday. We're also going to be at the Block by Block party in Orlo Vista from 11 to 6 p.m. on Saturday. It's at Orlo Vista Park. Um, on Sunday, we're going to be canvassing again, and all of that's going to be on my website. We actually canvass every Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And for those of you who don't know, canvassing is going out, knocking on doors, and talking to the neighbors, just letting them know that they have somebody who's really going to fight for them. Um, Outside of that, I want everyone to hold me accountable, and so I can make sure all of my information's out there. So my phone number is on all of my literature. It's on my website. Please reach out to me. Let me know what's important to you. And when I get elected, don't stop reaching out. If I do something that pisses you off, please let me know. If I do something that made you really happy, also let me know. But I want to be very connected with the community, and that's why I put my personal cell phone number on everything. Not one of those candidates I got a Google phone number, so my phone just blows up all the time. But that's part
Don't
of the
put me
job,
out
and
there.
that's
I'm
why I
not a
want
candidate, but don't put me out there.
to. But no, please check out my website. Come out and knock doors with us. Come to one of our events. Come out to some of the candidate forums. We're going to be at the Pine Hills Hobnob going on next month. We're going to be in the Orange County Black Caucuses Hobnob that's also going on next month. The last Friday of this month, Support Orlando Shelters has a candidate forum that we'll be at. I think we have one like every 2 weeks for the rest of the election season. So there's plenty of opportunities for people to come out and get to see not just me, but also the other candidates, because I want you guys to make an informed decision. I hope you vote for me. I hope I've proved my case, but please, like, come out, get to know all of the candidates. There's a lot of people running, and your vote is one of the most important things that you are given as an American citizen. And so it's really, really important that you use it and that you use it right. So, thank you.
I feel like we should have addressed this. This is the last thing I would say before I give the upcoming events. Um, District 7, tell people where that spans from, because this is a new district. You touched on it. I
Yes.
meant to go back and circle back and ask you that for clarification. Let people know.
Yeah, of course. So District 7 is going to be all of Maitland, all of Eatonville. It's going to go from Rosemont down to College Park. Going to get all of Pine Hills and Orlo Vista. It's a decently large district. It was created to be the second Black majority district that we'll have in the county. So 2 out of our 8 districts are Black majorities, which is great. And it's diverse, and there's a lot of opportunity for us to do great things.
Okay, okay. If you get it, I'm going to be asking you very much questions about the data centers in Eatonville. So
All
we're
right.
going to touch on that. But
All right.
for the sanctity of time, thank you all for hanging out this long. Let me tell you the upcoming events in Orlando specifically. In the future, I'll try to get all over the nation. But for tonight specifically, as Aaron mentioned, it's the Black White Block Party in Orla Vista Park. You get to meet candidates, eat delicious food, enter into a raffle. There's a $20 raffle for a youth motorbike with a helmet. And I also think a tablet's up for raffle. It's from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Aaron's going to be there. Janae's going to be there. I believe Shakea. Fillmore is going to be there. We have a couple of people. And there's going to be food. There's pizza, burgers, and face paint. And it's on a playground. I mean, like, it has it all. And I also believe Northwestern is going to be out there. Once Northwestern Insurance, just in case you're curious, if you have kiddos and you want to make sure that you solidify your future. On the same day, Equal Ground will have the legislative debrief. This is if you want to know the policies that they're for and against and what's being uplifted and what's impacting Orlando, Florida. They're going to be at the Experience Christian Center from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Then we have the African People's Socialist Party on June 14th that are doing the Ebola outbreak response. This is happening virtually via YouTube. You can find them at the Burning Spears TV at 3 p.m. And then we all know Juneteenth is coming up, so there'll be the Paint, Sip, and Liberate. I told y'all I had a lot. I've been looking. On Conroy Windermere, it's hosted by the Honest Culture. That's going to start at 6 p.m. At the very same time, Orlando Against Police Crimes will be doing the Observing the Juneteenth holiday by Crossing the Bridge event. And that's also, like I said, at the very same time. Lastly, June 27, Seeds of Strength Coalition and the U.S. Hands Off Cuba Committee are doing a collaborative presentation called The Africans in the Americas, A History of Colonialism in Cuba and Haiti, and that's at 6 p.m. I know this is a lot, so if you want to rewatch the episode just so you get all of this, and I will have the flyers on Blactrospective. So look out for that on our page. And then with that, taking a breath, Ish, you can close us out.
You're on mute.
All right, let's try this again. Tonight's conversation reminds us that local elections are deeply connected to our everyday life. There's housing, affordability, development, and economic stability aren't abstract political topics. They shape how people live, work, and build within their own communities. Understanding who makes those decisions helps the voters to be able to make more informed decisions and participation within the voting system. If you love this episode and want to support the work that we do, please like, subscribe, and share. Now, if you're interested in behind the scenes content, become a supporter on Buy Me a Coffee. The link's in the bio. Special shout outs to our talent director.
Shakutore.
Oh, you want to take over?
Oh, no, I just want to.
Okay. I was like, what are we doing? And to our audience, thank you for starting the hard conversations with us.
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because informed communities build real change. We're trying to inform y'all.
Stay informed, stay empowered, and as always, love, peace, and support Black businesses.
See y'all. Aaron, stay on, because we're going to do the behind the scene questions. See you, everybody. Thank y'all for
Bye.
staying with us.